Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. Before we dive into this powerful episode, please remember to subscribe to our channels and give us a 5-star rating on iTunes to continue hustling. This episode is sponsored by the Transact Card, Align Life, Brain-Based Health Solutions, Chiro HD, Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, German College of Chiropractic, New Patients in a Box, Life Chiropractic College West, Pro Hockey Chiros, Pro Baseball Chiros, the IFCO, and 100% Chiropractic. Let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 543 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. I'm your producer, Luke Millette, and here's your host, James Chester.
So today we had the opportunity of interviewing Dr. Larry Ziegler. And if you want to hear the story about how the referral is the miracle story, stay tuned. Welcome back. This is another episode of the Chiro Hustle podcast. Today I have Larry Ziegler coming on with me. We just had a dynamic weekend together. Really cool guy. Pillar of his community, does a lot to help people, and been a chiropractor for 25 years now, I think. So really excited to tell you your story today. But before we jump into episode 543, I let everybody know our big why. Why do we do what we do over here? Well, freedom of speech is highly important to us as a platform. We've never censored anyone. I take a lot of pride in that. We also believe in medical freedom and family health freedom as a show. Those are not the same things, but they matter to people to have sovereignty of their decisions. And I think chiropractic has been the one thing in the gap stopping medical tyranny. Chiropractors have been doing a really good job of letting people make choices for their own health decisions with their guidance. And as we go into the show, we also support subluxation-based chiropractic. I know I shouldn't have to say that on a chiropractic show. Every chiropractor should say, I believe that too, but we have to make note of that. We also protect BJ Palmer Sacred Trust. If you don't know what that means, go to your favorite search engine right now, pause the show, and go and look for BJ Palmer Sacred Trust. You're going to learn more about chiropractic than you previously did, I guarantee you. And then lastly, we believe in innate intelligence and universal intelligence. We believe that when man or woman the physical gets adjusted by the hands of a chiropractor, it connects them to man or woman the spiritual. And with that being said, Dr. Larry, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I mean, the chiropractic story, 127 years young.
Yep.
And you're 102 years off from that. So you've come in the last 25 years. And, I think that your story, you told me a story over the weekend. I loved it. How you got into Parker and how you matriculated through Parker and how you got some mentorship and you became the doc that you are and you learned. And I think a lot of people that will be watching this, friends, family, colleagues, patients, they might have heard your story before, but they might need a refresher on it. So if you could just share with people, how did you get into chiropractic and how did you get to where you are today?
Yeah, sure. I'd love to. So backing up way back, as a kid in school, I didn't perform well. I was bored. I was never challenged. And I think I've talked to others who faced similar situations in the past. And luckily our current education system, I think, does a lot better job of accommodating kids in that scenario. But I had a few teachers, especially in high school, that really latched on to the fact that I was not interested in the status quo or the same boring classroom routines. And they gave me additional challenging things. And one of those was my high school biology teacher really helped me dig deep into marine biology and understanding, the science and the study of how things work. And I became fascinated with it. And I joined the Marines right out of high school because going to college was just not even on my list. There was no real history in my family of going to college. I didn't even know the process or where to start. It was just just not even out there for me. I would have been happy driving a cement truck, honestly, because it just fit better with my daily kind of routines. But I met someone in the Marines who gently pushed me towards education rather than just following that same career path. And I did that. And after I finished my undergrad work with an emphasis on science, but also business, I went into kind of a pause mode. I took some interest exams. I'm like, where do I want to go from here? And all of it pointed towards medical sciences or, being some kind of a doctor. And as I contemplated that, I looked back at my childhood. Who were the doctors that I saw? How did they affect me? What impressions did they make? And honestly, my chiropractor was my favorite guy. I had a few significant injuries when I was younger, and I knew every single time I would go to that office, he would figure it out and I would walk out feeling better. And I honestly didn't have that experience in most of the other places that I would go for care. And so I thought, I don't know anything about chiropractic or chiropractic education, chiropractic philosophy, innate. I knew nothing about any of it, right? I only knew that I had a good experience. And that was enough for me to just start developing this idea. And we joked about it over the weekend, but I dated a few people. And when we get to that point in our conversations where it's like, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? I would mention chiropractor, and I'd get that stink eye, like, why don't you want to be a real doctor? I'm like, oh boy, that's a weird statement. But because to me, my chiropractor was never anything but a real doctor, that was just where I was at. So I went along in this pattern for about 2 years or so after my undergrad was done, and I hadn't gone forward. I ended up meeting my future wife. And when we got to that point in our conversation where it was, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I said, thinking chiropractor, she went, oh, cool. And I'm shocked. I'm like, what? And it turns out two of her brothers, her dad, her grandfather, her great grandfather, and her great aunt and uncle were all chiropractors. And since then, I've come to discover just how valuable that was and what it meant to me and to the family. And as of right now, I'm the last one out of all those generations of people. Both brothers are done with practice, and right now, no other kids, grandkids, or others have entered the system. I'm kind of it. So we're hoping to see a change there. But she said, if you want to learn more about chiropractic school, let's go visit my parents, which was a huge step because we're just kind of, hanging out, having fun, couple of college kids. And her parents were in Dallas, Texas. I was in Utah. But I said, yeah, let's go. And I took a trip through Parker, got the tours. Her dad was on faculty at Parker, which was amazing. So I had a really intense kind of inside look at how things worked. And I was sold. I was hooked. I signed straight up to go down, and we went through the program and never looked back. It's been wonderful.
Yeah. And I know that because of that experience, you had a chance to work closely with Jim Parker too.
Yes.
A few times. What was your experience like getting to know the guy that started all that down there in Dallas?
Dr. Parker was intense, is a good word. He was a character. I mean, he came from the background he was in and helped thousands of chiropractors to develop their skills and get out in front of their communities, which I will forever respect. His approach was so amazing. The number of acronyms I still remember from all the little things and sayings that he would do is just nuts. But he had a way, he could look at you for 2 seconds and you felt like he had just seen every single part of your soul. The guy was just on a different plane, if you will. And he had his little kind of sayings and things he would do on a daily basis. He walked fast. Every time I was near him, you literally had to focus on keeping up with Dr. Jim wherever he was going. And he just didn't mess around. He lived everything he said, and it was just intense all the time. And that's something I had never really seen in an individual with someone who was that true to what he was doing. But that was my greatest impression with him, is that he was exactly who I thought he would be. I was not surprised there.
I didn't get a chance to ever meet Jim. I recently met the guy that started Sherman, Tom Gilardi. I had a chance to get a picture with him this past or a couple months ago, and just the fortitude that it takes for somebody to have the vision to take a plot of land and to say, we're going to perpetuate this profession of chiropractic. Like, you don't have to agree with me. You don't have to be a part of it. I'm going. It takes somebody that's intense. It takes somebody that's driven. It takes somebody that's on their own command. So yeah, it's pretty cool you had that experience.
Yeah, it was a good one. There's others I would have loved to meet, like Jancy, my father-in-law, worked with him a lot at National. And as I read the books that have been written and stories and tales from his life, you have to be intense and focused and on point all the time to accomplish the things these guys did. But the legislative changes, educative changes, accreditation, the things that came out of the efforts of that time period are amazing. And most of us just experience that now and take for granted that that's the way it was. But that's not the way it always was. There's been massive efforts to lay foundation for what we do today, for sure.
Yeah, I think the modern chiropractor, like up to the past like 15 years at least, they've experienced like the insurance and the lack of reimbursements and the more to cash model. And I think that the practitioner today has their own, generational, battle to win. And I think that every generation kind of does when you talk about like where people, were getting jailed for chiropractic and going to court and winning. And, I think that if you look at like the whole thing, from the Mercedes 80s, when everything that people did, they got paid on. And then, funny enough, I call it the Nissan 90s.
Which is when I came out of school, right?
Yeah. So you came into more of a conservative era where we had to like start looking at like the billing.
Yep.
And, I think that that's really interesting. So let's just talk about that a little bit, like building a practice. I know that one of the things you kind of wanted to focus on today was relationship capital and like the secret to life about how people can actually build relationships in their local community and like build their career around that. So I know that that's something you really like appreciated about like how you did your career, but focusing on other businesses, focusing on families, like talk a little bit about that and how that might be able to translate to our listeners today.
Sure. So for me, when I first came out, I associated with other docs, and I highly recommend that for at least a year or two. You should do it. If you're a new doc and thinking about what you're going to do with you when you come out, don't just jump into trying to manage a practice solo, because I'll tell you, the learning curve is harsh and a lot of mistakes will be made. And when I first came out of school, I was gung-ho and ready to go. And after a couple of years of associateship, at the time, I was a little bit kind of like, I wish I was making more money, or I feel like I'm spinning my wheels. But by the time I was about 10 years in, I realized without that training period, I'd have had incredible struggles. And I just learned so much. And I'm grateful to both the guys I associated with now. And I've told them so, because it just helped me to move forward. And one of the things I saw out of those early practice efforts was that critical relationships that they had with the community and with other business were massive drivers for practice growth. And so I looked for those opportunities. In my location, we had BNI, which is, I think, in pretty much most of the country, the Business Network International. And I also joined one called Connect Share, which I don't think is as widespread, but was very effective. And in both of those, same with like a Chamber of Commerce. I've been a member of Chamber of Commerce in pretty much every community. I speak Spanish, so I've been in the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce for years. And what happens is you meet these guys, you build relationships, you have a chance to sit around the table, focused in conversation. You get to learn about what they do. You get to present what you do. And more importantly, we would always organize outside activities, do other things, and really create some long-lasting friendships. And I'm telling you, the guys from my BNI from over a decade ago still call me or text me to either come and see me or send someone over to my office when they need it. And we typically generate between 30 and 40 new patients a month with zero advertising. And I've been that way for years and years and years. And that's enough to keep my practice as successful as I want it to be. I've literally never paid for an ad in my whole career because I've built relationships with so many people. And I'll highlight that with just one guy. One of my first patients came in. We're still friends. Saw this patient just last week, has been in hundreds of times. But more important than that, because of that relationship, I just went through the records and counted after I talked to you. I've treated 14 different PI cases as direct referrals from that one person. And in my office, that's an average of about $6,800 per patient. You can do the math. What's that one relationship worth, right? That's what my practice has been built on this whole entire time, no matter what building it was in or where it was. Everybody that I saw walking through the door were people that we met through an extended relationship, either through existing patients or businesses and community members that we got to know. And I can't even put a finger on that value. It's just immense.
Hearing you say that, it reminds me of the big why. Why does a practitioner do it?
Yeah.
And I think that that's a driving force for a lot of people to figure out that secret to life. And if you really want to be a quality producer, then you have to go out there, and I call it harvesting your community. You have to go do the BNI. You have to go out there and build those relationships. You have to become referable. And if you have the best degree out there on planet Earth and no one knows who you are, it doesn't matter how good you are as a technician. Doesn't matter how good you are as an adjuster. Those things are secondary. You have to go out there and meet people. And you have to build those relationships. And really, that's where I've seen a lot of docs have the most success is they're not afraid to become advocates for themselves.
Yeah. And I told you the grocery store example. I've talked to lots of guys about this. If they ever come to me when we're dealing with, how can you build up your practice? Because I've consulted and helped a lot of guys in this area. And one of the things I've heard over and over is, well, 2 more chiropractors moved into my town this last year, and I think we're close to saturated, and my new patients have slowed way down, or whatever it is. And I give them this example. I ask them, is there a busy grocery store with a deli counter near your office? It's always yes, right? And so go there. Go to lunch, take a piece of paper, make 3 columns, and label them as people I know, people I don't know, and people who are my patients. And just say hi to people as they walk by and make a mark. Do you know them? Do you not know them? Are they your patient? And the day that the patients column has more marks in it at the end of your lunch than the people I know and people I don't know column, you may be close to saturating your community. And until then, shut the heck up and go out and say hi to some new people, because there are plenty of people around you who need your care. They just don't know who you are.
You've made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. This episode is sponsored by the Transact Card, Align Life, Brain-Based Health Solutions, Chiro HD, Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, German College of Chiropractic, New Patients in a Box, Life Chiropractic College West, Pro Hockey Chiros, Pro Baseball Chiros, the IFCO, and 100% Chiropractic. Let's hustle. Yeah, and I've been giving this advice to a lot of docs recently, just like a freebie for them. If you want to start getting cases that are referred in from other practitioners, I would recommend building, it sounds counterintuitive, but I would recommend people to build relationships with the joint, specifically if they have x-ray at their offices, because these people get hot discs that come in and they're not equipped to take care of those types of cases. So if you're a rehab style offices that shoots x-rays and does care packages and make sure that people are rehabbed properly, the joint's a great relationship model that you can go in and get those cases that come in. They probably get 10 of them a day where they need to send them to somebody. And if you're that somebody, bingo, you just got the best referral source in town. Secondary, I also would recommend finding the urgent care in town and building a relationship with those treating physicians, because those guys and gals, they don't want to refer into more drugs and more surgery. They're not equipped for that either. They want to go least invasive, and they want to get people better faster. And they know that these people typically that come to urgent care aren't big insurance cases. They're out of pocket cases. So if they can then refer them to you and know that you get them better faster without drugs or surgery, those people are going to be another great pipeline of referrals for you too.
That's a good one. And one of my most unexpected sources, I actually get referrals from quite a few MDs and orthopedists and others. We work together quite often. And the most surprising one to me was my cardiologist. We hit it off when I went into his office. The first time we met, he wanted to start me on a statin drug, and I said, "No way in hell." And he looked at me like, "What?" And I said, "I understand you want me to change these cholesterol numbers a little bit, and I will, but I'm not taking a statin drug." And we had a conversation about it. I got back to his office 6 months later, so this is only the second time we met, and he doesn't really know me. He called me by my first name on my file, which is David, and I go by Larry because it's David Lawrence. So he's like, "Hey, David, your cholesterol numbers look fantastic. You know, your HDLs are in great range, and your bad cholesterol has come down. I want to keep this change going, but I can't find which prescription we put you on. What have you been taking?" And I said, "No, remember me?" I said, "No way in hell. I'm not taking anything." I added, and he goes, "This is when we became friends, and I love this, and it taught me a lot. I've actually done this with so many patients since because it impressed me so much." He closed the folder he was looking at, set it down on the desk, sat down, and looked me in the eye and said, "What did you do?" It was amazing. So I told him, "Hey, I added this, this, and this to my diet. I dropped that, and that out of my diet. I've cycled a little more, and here we are." And he's like, "Oh, that's fantastic." And I said, "I'm surprised that you don't have more emphasis on helping people make lifestyle changes rather than just recommending that statin drug. I'd love to see that." And he said, "I've spent about $1 million on staff and ideas working on patient compliance programs to help with lifestyle changes. And what I saw was less than 10% compliance. People just want the pill." And it's kind of a sad statement, not on him, but on the industry and on our country, that we've come to a point where you can get down with get your cholesterol down by taking a pill. So why would you need to make any changes? We've kind of come to rely on that pill or that thing or that procedure. But he was ecstatic, and he actually walked up to me at dinner a little while later at our jointly favorite restaurant and said, "Hey, I get patients all the time with chest pains and problems, and they think they're having a heart attack. We do a full workup, even nuclear studies, and there's nothing wrong with the heart. It's got to be a musculoskeletal problem. Can I send those people to your office?" I said, "Of course." First few cases resolve beautifully. Everything goes well. Next thing you know, I have a flood of patients. Literally, it goes on and off, but I've had dozens and dozens of patients sent over, and a good portion of his staff as well. And I have this awesome relationship with a cardiologist that I never expected. That's what you look for, you just build a relationship, be really authentic no matter where you are. Let people know that chiropractic is what you do, and these opportunities are going to come at you. It's just going to happen.
Yeah, and as I've gotten to know you more, we've talked a lot about like getting involved and being a part of something bigger than you. And I know that there's some advice you might have for people's vision as far as like getting more involved with their state associations. And can you share a little bit about why you would want people to do that?
Absolutely. If you don't ever go to your state associations or participate, you probably aren't aware of what goes on behind the scenes. But I've participated in national level discussions for the last 5 or 6 years because our association joined the National Chiropractic Congress, and that gives us a chance to, kind of go in and exchange ideas with people and figure out what successes and what challenges are happening around the country. But locally, it can be intense as well. Here in Utah, we have a very well-rounded and really an exceptional practice act. The gentlemen that initially put it together were quite visionary, and I've always been really pleased and very grateful for how broad and how encompassing it is, but yet still focused on chiropractic and our mission and what we do. At the same time, there can be challenges. And just a few years ago, we had an informal decision that came down from our AG's office that said that since it does not say that we can in our Practice Act, chiropractors in Utah are not able to order MRI. And that's something I do all the time, especially working with a lot of PI and trauma cases. So it was quite concerning. And of course, insurance companies get wind of that and they want to say, oh, no, you can't order that MRI. We're not approving it. And it becomes problematic in patient care. And then in order to fix that, we literally have to open our Practice Act. And from a legislative perspective, I've been serving as the legal legislative chair for, I don't know, 5 or 6 years now. And the heartburn behind the scenes of opening that Practice Act and knowing exactly what modifications to make, what language to propose, it took several years to get that 2-sentence change into a place where we were comfortable moving forward. But behind the scenes, the association last year, on behalf of all its members and all chiropractors in Utah, was able to enact that new legislation, open and change the Practice Act with cooperation and approval from the Utah Medical Association. Our Practice Act now says that chiropractors can order for diagnostic purposes MRI, ultrasound, and or diagnostic ultrasound and CT scan. That wasn't there before, and it's amazing change. And it just simply allows us the freedom to continue to provide that exceptional diagnostic benefit to our patients uninterrupted. And there's still probably hundreds of docs in the state that don't even know it happened. I say participate in your association. Be part of the group that brings issues or challenges to your association's attention, and then volunteer your time and help to make sure that those things get resolved, because nobody's magically doing that for you. It's good doctors coming together, focusing on the issues and taking action to make changes that are positive for the profession. And we certainly need more of that. It's not going to go away.
Well, like I was saying, like every generation has their push.
Yep.
And they every 2 years or 3 years with turnover of people that are in charge of things has their push. And some things go the right way for a while, and sometimes they start sliding backwards a little while. So it's important to have people highly engaged with the association movement, at least to be aware and to be a part of it, rather than saying, hey, it's not going our way. And I think that there's 3 things I always tell people when it comes to contributing to something in that scope. It's give your time, your talent, or your treasure. If you don't have time and you have too much money, help them out. Help pave the way for the lobby within the chiropractic arm of legislation. If you have skill sets in doing leadership, get on the boards, jump on board, pay your fees with your expertise, and then and if you have time, show up. And you don't have to do too much, just be a part of it. So time, talent, treasure, show up and help these state associations fight for your practice, ability to practice under the scope that is out there. And if you find that there needs to be some modifications to make it better, now you're in a position to help do so. So
Yep.
I always like to urge people to be considerate of what we share too, and to go out there and to do their best and put their best foot forward, and to take action. We like action takers. And then lastly, I know that we were going to talk a little bit about the future of chiropractic. I know that was something that was on our question set that seemed to resonate with you. So what is your vision for the future of this beautiful profession?
Oh boy. So I think your question on your paper was, where do you see us in 20 years?
Yeah, for sure. Yep.
And looking back 20, 25 years, a lot has changed. And looking forward 20 years with the new AI, with digital marketing, with changes in the world, text neck is becoming prevalent. There's all kinds of stuff that's occurring right now, health challenges and otherwise. The public itself will be in a different place in 20 years. And despite our best attempts to self-destruct as a profession, we're still succeeding. And the reason why is because what we offer has such incredible value. And I get in touch with that every once in a while, and it can be a little emotional. I actually have right here. I know this camera's not going to make it pretty, but you see this binder? It's all worn out and hammered. This binder was a marketing binder from the Public Relations Research Institute. That was my wife's grandfather's binder when he was in practice. This particular issue is from 1956. And it's so funny to read through it and read all of the predictors and the issues they were facing at the time. What's going to destroy our profession? What's going to tear us down? A lot of it's fairly negative, but then it comes back with, here are proposed solutions and steps that you as an individual chiropractor can take. And I think it's ironic that as I sit in national level meetings the last few years and participate in our own board and look at what's going on, you know, the issues in that book are pretty much the same ones we're still talking about today. So are those issues going to be resolved in 20 years? No. But will we still be providing amazing healthcare, miraculous changes in people's lives, and progressing as an entire profession? I say yes. Regardless of the challenges that pop up, what we do is too powerful. It's well directed from the right sources of energy. The universe wants and needs us to continue what we're doing. We cannot give up on where we're at. Just, we can't.
Yeah, I at this point in my career, after 15 years of doing something in this profession, being involved with the profession, I think that it's undeniable that chiropractic is always here to stay, and that no one really controls chiropractic because the results that it produces, like even the people that might not want to see it like succeed, they still want to get adjusted.
Right.
And that's the thing is, like, when people might not even agree with something, they still want to participate with the services. Yeah. So that's the thing I think will always make chiropractic relevant and win, is because the undeniable truth of the effectiveness of the chiropractic adjustment, the depth and the sincerity and the relationship with the philosophy of the profession is undeniable. There's nothing else out there that has a philosophy in any facet of any health art, in any type of professional grade, like service and industry art, that has the philosophy of chiropractic with its relevancy and its history. There's nothing out there. So people will constantly pick at chiropractic. They'll constantly try to dismantle the philosophy and use it and make it their own. And even if they don't agree with it, they still want to get adjusted. So chiropractic will have a long, prosperous future of maybe people that don't believe in chiropractic. But like Sid Williams would always say, chiropractic works just like gravity. You don't have to believe in it. It works whether you believe in it or not.
That's it.
And that's how chiropractic, the future, will continuously be adapting, like you said. And we might not ever get through some of the challenges that we've been facing since the 50s, but we'll continuously adapt, and chiropractors will continuously serve their communities. So Dr. Larry Ziegler, thank you for being episode 543 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you would like to share with our audience today before we call it a day?
You know, I would say one thing, and that is just stay focused on your process. I am so dialed in right now on exactly what I want patients to have as an experience on their first visit and their second visit with reported findings. I've had patients in my office that are like, I don't believe in chiropractic. I don't know why I'm here. And I do what my cardiologist did. I set down whatever I'm doing. I stop looking at whatever I'm looking at, and I look at them and I ask them directly, okay, why are you here? And they always answer the same way. This has happened to me so many times. I'm here because my friend Jim sent me over. He said you could help me. That's what else? What else can we do that's stronger than that? You provide the experience every time. You'll get the results because chiropractic works. You build that relationship with your patients. And the next time that doubting person or that person who's struggling to find a solution ends up in your office going, I don't know why I'm here, I guarantee you within a few days they will know why, and they'll be an advocate for us forever. And I've created amazing, powerful relationships with so many. I have hundreds of patients who've been in well over 100 times, self-directed, because they get what they need. And I love it. That's what I would love to share, is anybody who's doubting themselves or what they're doing, trust in the process, trust in yourself, and build a system that allows you to share that confidence and those results with every patient. You'll be as busy as you want to be your whole life. It's just amazing.
Well, I believe your miracle story is the referral story. So I appreciate you being on with us today. If people want to reach out to you or connect with you, where can we send them to?
So Utah Health Center is where we're at. We're in Murray, Utah, and phone number is 801-901-4261, and we're always there and ready for you.
That's great, man. That's one of the things I took away from our time together, is you said that you're always prepared for people to come see you, whether the schedule's full or not. And generally speaking, it's full. So appreciate you once again for being on with us today. I'm going to close out by telling everybody, go to utahhealthcenter.com. Check him out. He's in Murray, Utah. And if they want to learn more about you, there's probably a way to contact you on the Utah Health Center page. So
absolutely
send some new patients to Dr. Larry. And with that being said, I always close out by telling everyone, you're just one story away. Keep hustling. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Thanks for your interview today, Dr. Larry.
Hey, thanks for having me.
All right. Bye for now. Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.